Hey, Jim, Ken, first one's in. Couple more coming in here. We're going to give everybody a couple minutes here before we kick things off. Hey, Jeff, not quite sure the attendee count on this one today, but um, it should be a good one. This is an interesting one. Microsoft Loop is fairly new, um, from what I understand. So should have a lot of eager learners today. I think it's going to be another great thing to incorporate. So why don't we just go ahead and get this started? So welcome on in everybody to another installment of our monthly webinar series. My name is Jacob Heath over at CompuWorks SourcePass. I will be your co-host today along with the wonderful Jolyn Reen. Before we get things started, I wanted to mention sort of a curveball here. So, as SourcePass, we're going to be kicking off another webinar series as well. And October 30th, I don't think we have an image here. Maybe we do. Look at that. SourcePass preparing for cyber insurance. That's on October 30th, as you can see here at 1 p.m. So, sticking around the same time and stay tuned for the regular cadence, the meeting times here. We'll have a little bit more information, but this is definitely going to be a good one. If you're out here, you're an owner, or you are in finance, you're the ones writing webinar, or I'm sorry, summaries and audits for your insurance company and questionnaires. Definitely tune in here. You're not going to want to miss it. So before we get started, just a couple etiquette questions for people who haven't been in these Zoom webinars, which 2023, I'm sure that there's not very many of you out there. If you've got any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A box down below. It's right by the chat. It's just like the chat. Pop them in there and we'll either answer them live, or if we can type them really quick, we'll answer them as we go. But if we don't have enough time, we have a few minutes, maybe like 15 minutes at the end, and we'll get to everybody's questions as soon as we can here. One more thing, we do send out a survey, usually within about 24 hours after the presentation. You can give us some feedback on how you liked it, as well as give us some feedback or info on topics you might want requested in the future. We certainly take those into account. We want to know what you guys want to learn and get more attendance here and more people excited to learn some of these things. So certainly give that a look. Take a look in your inbox within the next 24 hours to fill that out as well. Jolyn, I was mentioning briefly before we kind of kicked things off this Microsoft Loop. I truly know nothing about it,
Okay.
but I gotta say I'm excited for it. Microsoft tends to make everything integrate really well.
They do.
I use To Do, which is a topic we've covered with Microsoft Planner, which
Mhm.
ties into my Outlook, which ties into my Teams, which ties into everything. So it really is just, I'm sure, another tool in the tool belt to make this thing
It is. It's something
make
that
us all
works
better.
directly with all those apps. And it's
Yeah.
even going to have workflows available.
Oh, beautiful.
Pretty
Well,
exciting.
then, without further ado, at this point, then let me introduce everyone to our wonderful Jolyn Reen, and let's get this thing kicked off.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for everybody for joining us here today. As excuse me, as Jacob was saying, Microsoft Loop is relatively new. As a matter of fact, organizations may not have released it yet. It depends on the licensing that you have. It is still in public preview. Public preview means that certain people were given access to using Microsoft Loop. So it will be available full stream. They are saying by the end of the year, early part of 2024. So a lot of these apps that are Microsoft 365 related are being built because there's a need for the way that we work today. So this is part of our new modern technology that everybody is using. There are some, of course, competitive products that have been out there in the past that do things similar to what you're going to see here today with Microsoft Loop. But I have to tell you, Microsoft Loop is being part of Microsoft 365. There's going to be nothing like it. You don't want to have some of your users going to a different app that IT has to support when you're going to get the same, if not better, usage by using Microsoft Loop. So Microsoft Loop is an application that can be used on your mobile device. It can be used through different applications directly through like programs like Microsoft Outlook. It can be used through Microsoft Teams. It can be used with Whiteboard. It can be used with online Microsoft Word. I haven't been able to find out if it's going to come to Microsoft Word Desktop just yet, but being new, we don't know for sure what's going to end up happening, because the more feedback that Microsoft gets, the more they start to incorporate things. But what are you going to use this for? Is kind of, what is it for? What's this program? Well, hence its name, Microsoft Loop. It's a way that we can keep people in the loop. So it is a shared option that you have, that you could create an email and insert what is called a component where you can do live collaboration. I'm going to do a demonstration on that. I don't have another account set up that I can do it with another computer, but you'll see how I can actually update things live, so that when we add a component, whether it's to a calendar appointment or it's to a brand new email, or in a chat through Microsoft Teams, we can keep people in the loop. So if I make a change, somebody else makes a change, it's instant. It isn't like we have to refresh anything or do anything silly like that. It is automatically going to show up. You'll see what I mean by that here in just a second. So it can be used in a lot of different places. It is going to be part of your Microsoft 365, but we use it to be able to share information like we always need to. I mean, that's the way we work these days, is we need to be able to share information. And we don't want just one place to go to get that information. So it's shareable with other people, and we can copy things and paste and do all kinds of cool things. But it is set up for kind of collecting and sharing information. It's a way that we can work together to keep everybody in the loop as far as what's going on with like a project. I use it all the time for project management. It's one of these components that I have built into my project management repertoire of all of my different templates that I'm using. It has been absolutely fantastic to have that tool available. And you'll see an example of that. I usually am doing that directly through Microsoft Teams. So it pieces different information together from multiple places. So as I said, it can be used through Microsoft Teams, through Outlook, through Word for the web, and Whiteboard as of today. Will that be expanded? I've read a little bit recently within the past week or 10 days or so that yes, that will most likely be expanded. The information related to what's going to happen to this in the future is very limited right now, but they're really stating the early part of 2024 is when we're going to see big changes and additions and different things like that coming to this application. So like I said, it will be a part of your 365 subscription.
So
So it can
Jolene,
be, yes,
sorry, before we get started
yes.
here, and maybe I mixed up some information here, but if you could put a label on what Microsoft Loop is, would you call it a project management tool? Would you call it a collaborative tool? And, is there a difference between, Teams and Loop, or is there more to see?
Yeah, there's a big difference between Teams and Loop. Loop is an application that works inside a team, so you're going to see an example of what that is, but it is an app on its own. So it does have a basically a front end, a workspace. So a lot of things are incorporating workspaces these days. So we have a workspace that we can be collaborating in. We're going to have there's three different main components, which I'll get to in just a second. But when you look at the slide that I have up right now, basically what this slide is letting you know is some of the things that you're going to be able to do with Loop. So it can help you with doing brainstorming. It can help you with having a list of things that need to do or assigning tasks. And that's where kind of the workflows will be coming into play as well. But it is more for like an early stage. I have actually used some of those components for my initiation phase when managing a project, but I also use this in other departments. I've used this with marketing. I've used this with accounting, not just managing an overall project. It could be used for so many different things. I've used it for brainstorming. We were trying to come up with some new ways that we could be working on some different templates and, all these different aspects of kind of a workflow with invoicing and how do we notify the customer and all this. There's so many different types of components that can be useful to keep track of all this information. So let's talk about the different components. So basically, we're going to see three different things today. The three different features is including the Loop components, where, as you can see from where the icon will be available, when we are in Microsoft Teams chat, I'm in an email, I'm in a meeting request, I'm building a new meeting or a new appointment, I'm going to have a menu of different components that we can actually insert and have live with other people. Whoever we share this component with, they will actually be able to instantly be able to update it. So I'll demonstrate some of these different components so you can see exactly how they work. But another part of Loop is working with pages. So kind of that scenario of being able to type paragraphs of data, but be able to also insert those different components into the pages. So I'll show you an example of how all that can work as well. But we also have a component called the workspace. So when it comes to the workspace, this is going to be usually a shared environment that we're going to share with whoever our group of people are, whether it's our team members, etc. Which, by the way, to mention that, because we always work together as a team. So my first thing is, can I add this as an app in Microsoft Teams channels? As of right now, no, but coming, yes. So we're going to have better integration coming shortly. So keep in mind, this is still in a preview stage, so it's not 100% where it will end up being. I still find it extremely useful, and it's crazy how many times I go, well, I should just use Loop. This would be so much easier. So it's been a good go-to for me for a lot of different reasons, and you'll see some of those examples here. So the workspace is where we can actually create spaces, which can include, like if I'm going to work on a specific project, even if that project is, we want to come up with a new way that we're going to process our invoices, or we're going to do hiring, or for marketing. We are doing a lot now with social media, and we want managers to be able to submit something to marketing, and we want to be able to put it through our workflow, but we don't know how to figure that out yet. The workspace is a great collaboration tool for us to use to figure that out. Could we be using Microsoft Teams? That might be a little bit more than what we need at this point when it comes to putting that project together. But you'll see some examples of what I mean by that. So we can actually put pages inside these workspaces where we can start to share those ideas. So a lot of times in that initiation phase, when we are starting to think, where are we going to go with this? What are we going to do with this? That is where I have been 100% utilizing Loop. So let me show you a few examples of actually how we can actually use Microsoft Loop. One of the things that I'll start with is, why don't I just start in, let me do this. Let's say that I created a new meeting or a new appointment in Outlook. So this is your typical, I'm going to do a new meeting with other people. I'm going to put in what the title is going to be for the meeting. And let's say it's going to be a department meeting. Just to give you an idea as to how this could work. I could invite everybody just like you normally would. We would choose the day that we're going to do the meeting. We would, of course, choose our time, all of those normal things. But what I'm going to do down in the typing area is, you know how you put your agenda in there? What if we want to have people start putting in some ideas and some different things that we could be discussing during this meeting, this department meeting? We could insert a loop component. So if I go to the insert tab, because we're going to insert something, always think the insert tab. When you go to the component list, you're going to see that we could insert a bulleted list, a checklist, a numbered list, paragraph. We have a table, a task list, or Q&A. Each one of these, as you hesitate, it's giving you a little screen tip on what each one of these are. So like Q&A, insert a Q&A component that everyone in the mail can edit online, inline, I should say. So basically, we could take any one of these, and this could be my start for, let's say we want a checklist. I'm going to do a checklist. So when I click on any of these components, it actually adds it in this little section. So you're going to see right now it says the name of it at the top, and it is a link to go to the component itself. I can see that I created it and I did it right now, but that's going to be so everybody knows that I created it, but they'll always see the date and the time as to when it was created. On the right-hand side, I have share locations, and I have a copy component where I could physically copy this component and put it someplace else. Just so you're aware that we could do that. I'm not going to worry about that right at this moment, but I want to go to add a title. So what's going to be the title of this? I'm going to call it the agenda. So I'm going to type agenda. And then right where it says, send this list to others to start collaborating, as people edit, everyone will see the changes instantly. That's the best part. It is 100% live. So whether I'm using it in Microsoft Teams, I'm using it in Outlook, whether it's an email or it's an appointment, whoever I'm inviting to this appointment will automatically be able to collaborate with this. So we might want to put in, we want to talk about old business. So I'm going to add that to our list, and I'm going to put in new business. Just so you could see, I could start this checklist. Now, the reason it's a checklist is because it has the circle on the left-hand side where we're going to be able to check things off. So as we go through the meeting, technically we could check these off. Or once we have all the details, this is how I've actually used it in the past, is once we have all the details for what we're going to cover about these topics on the agenda, I check it off the list. And I usually put who's going to do that discussion. But let me just send this. Even though I didn't put it as being a Teams meeting right at this moment, I'm just going to click send like you normally would do once you create this. It's asking me, are you sure you want to send it without a location? I'm going to say send anyway. Of course, normally if you're going to do a meeting, you want to tell them where the meeting is going to take place at. So what's going to end up happening is, of course, anytime that you have a meeting, you're sending out that meeting and people are going to say, you know, yes, I'm going to make it, or no, I'm not, you know, they accept or decline the meeting. Well, what's going to happen is when you go back to that meeting, so I'm going to go to my Outlook and I'm going to open that meeting up. So let me put that on your screen here so you can see anybody who was invited to that meeting. They say, yes, they're coming, whatever the case might be. Even if we forward this off to somebody else, they're going to be able to come in and add new information. So my other person that I invited, they could keep coming in here and adding information to this agenda. So if they want to come in and add, or I want to come in and add, anybody can come and add anything to this component. Technically, we could have more than one component added to this meeting, or added to an email, or to a chat, or wherever we're putting that component. So I could come below this component. Let me just kind of press enter a couple of times underneath this component. Technically, I could insert additional components, just so you know. But each component, as you can see, if I go to a line item, it's got the dotted menu on the left-hand side. So watch for the dots. No matter what Microsoft app you're in, we use the dots for the menus, of course, everywhere. So it's no different here. If I wanted to delete an item, we can go to that menu, it selects that item, and we could go ahead and delete it. So that would be an example of one of the components that we could share with other people, that anyone that has rights to it would be able to automatically add. Once we open that item, whether it's an email or whatever, we could see the updated list. We could add to it ourselves, and somebody else who has it open would automatically, just like that, they would see it. There's no refresh. It's a live collaboration list. So it's different than some of our other live collaboration tools that we have. Some of them have to be refreshed. This does not. I mean, it's automatic. I have shared components with several different people, and it doesn't matter if they're in my organization or not in my organization. Technically, it can be shared. So great tool to be able to use. As a matter of fact, I could have actually added, I'll do that with an email. I'll add my Gmail account just so you could see. So I'm just going to leave this one. I could send an update if I made changes to this, but I'm just going to close this for right now. Okay. And then let me show you how it works in an email. So if you have an email that has been sent out, I created a brand new email, and there was a component that was part of that email. This, once again, is a live collaboration tool. And the one that I created right here is, I created a table, is basically what this was. I opened the sent item that I sent out to other people. I can go to that sent email, open it, make changes to it, and whoever I sent it to, if they still had that email open, they're going to see everything that I added to it. Or they can add to it, and when I'm in the email, I'll be able to see it. It's not like we have to go back and forth with reply all, forward. We don't do that. With these components, it's live. It's a one email. It's one email. So if I come into this table, and I'll show you an example of a table here in a second, how you add it in, but I could just go to the next row, and this is my list of my project management templates that we're working on. And I just want to know, what is the template name, and then basically what is the status, as an example. Of course, tables are ways that we can have columns and rows, and each component can be modified, by the way. We could be renaming. So just so you could see, if I go to this column heading, I can actually right click on it. I could sort the list. I could actually insert. So if I go to insert, I could insert new columns or rows. I also could move things left, right, that kind of a scenario. I can resize it. I can copy it. I can expand it. A lot of things about maintaining that specific component. But if I add an item to this, so let's say that I'm going to add in a WBS, because we need a WBS template. And we're going to say that that's completed. Now, of course, I didn't create a drop-down list or anything for that, just to give you an idea as to how I could do columns and rows of information. I can always click new to add something new, a new row, so we can continue to grow this. I'm just going to close it. It's automatically saved. So if somebody else opens that email, they're going to automatically see any changes that were done to it. I didn't reply. That person automatically sees the live. Jacob, you look like you have a question from someone.
Yeah, we've got a great question in the Q&A here. We touched on adding items to a component, but what about adding another component altogether, especially when you're replying to somebody else's email? So you come in with, maybe the agenda, and I say, oh, I've got this other new loop component, this separate list that we might want to talk about. Can I add that in on my reply?
So you want to add, you're going to reply to somebody and then you want to add a component to that reply. Is that what you're
Yeah, so
saying?
I don't want to add
Okay.
maybe like an item to maybe their component that already exists in the
Yep.
email, but I want to put a whole new loop component on there. Can I do that?
You want to add a brand new component to an existing message is what I'm guessing.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes. The answer is definitely yes. Okay.
Good. Okay.
So let me show you how that would work. So here happens to be a message from Jacob. So it doesn't even matter what the contents of that message was. I can come in and do a reply, a forward, and I can always go to my insert tab and I can insert a loop component. So let me show you how I created that table just so you have an idea. So if I come to this loop component on this reply, I can click table. It automatically gets it ready for us. So it has 2 columns by default, but as you saw already, I could add more columns. But I could go to that column and I can rename it. So I can name my columns to be whatever I want the names to be. We can continue, of course, to add new rows, etc. But let me just go ahead and send this to Jacob so that he can actually make some changes to this. And then I'll reopen it in my sent so that you can see how anything that he does, I'm going to leave it generic. I'm going to have Jacob go ahead and make some changes to it. And then I'll reopen it again for my sent items so that you'll be able to see. So some recipients don't have access to this link. I'm going to click don't send because I'm going to go up to the top here and I'm going to click on my share and I'm going to do share locations for a component. And basically what this is going to do, and let me kind of slide this window open over here so you can see what exactly is this doing, because he's not in my domain is why I got that message, just so you're aware. So it came up with, here's some new stuff. We've got all this kind of new stuff coming out because of the fact that it's been in kind of development here. So I'm not going to go through all that new stuff. But basically, here's that component. This component is now open in loop.microsoft.com. Loop.microsoft.com. By default, loop components are saved to the originator's OneDrive, but that can be configured by IT, just so you know where does all this get stored at. So basically what you're seeing is this is that component, but I need to actually share it so that he'll be able to make changes to that component. So you could see that I could do a page link because it automatically opened it in an actual page, or I could actually go to this embed and provide access to this page through Microsoft 365. So I'm going to do a page link. I'm going to do it as a page link because, and this is because he's not part of my domain, and it all depends on your rights. If you're going to be able to share things outside of your organization, which is typical for SharePoint and everything else. Okay. Jacob, did you have another question or comment on that as I'm doing this?
No, I'm just gonna say, hey, I've never gotten this kind of interaction in the actual training. I'm excited.
So it's actually pretty cool. So what I'm going to do, oh, I didn't set it up for, I'm going to say anybody with access. So I'm in my share. And by the way, this is the same sharing capability that we get in any of your Microsoft apps, by the way. So I'm going to say people with existing access, reshare with people in your organization, or I could say people I choose. Okay, so I'm going to say that I want to share this with Jacob. He's not going to probably come up. I might have to copy and paste. Come on. I'm going to keep it on Ken Edit. I don't know why you're not allowed. I didn't change my rights. I just realized I didn't change my rights myself. So I personally can't share outside of my company. I forgot to go in and change my rights. So anyway, I'm sorry, Jacob. I won't be able to share that with you till I go in and change my rights for
One
having
day.
you there. I'm so sorry. I
One day.
totally forgot that I didn't do that prior to the session. But anyway, what's going to end up happening is when someone receives that response, whether I did the response to somebody in my organization or I did it to somebody outside of my organization, if I had the rights to be able to share with that person, they will be able to, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to add myself. I want to add my Gmail because my Gmail is in my account. I'm going to take Jacob off there for just a second because I don't want it to bring that back again. And I'm just going to share this with, oops, nope, wrong Joe. Sorry. I'm getting too clicky. J-O. There it is. Okay. Now I'm just going to go ahead and send it. And I'm going to say send anyway, because I'm going to show you what it's going to end up looking like on their end. So what exactly do they end up getting? So let me go to that email and I'll show you that once that syncs back up here. Oh, here it is. Oops. So let me show you this screen here. So you can see in my Gmail account, this is what it came across looking like to the recipient. So this is what I sent over. I'm going to go ahead and click on the actual component. Takes me directly to the component from that hyperlink. So let me see if that will work for you, Jacob. It doesn't always work unless I have that permission set up, but let me see if I can get it to work for you. So let me go back to your email. I'm going to reply. I'm going to insert that component. And let's see if you get that okay. So let me know when you get that message, see if that link works for you. But while we're waiting, let me kind of continue with this. So in an email, you can insert a component, and then that component can be live updated so that anybody that has access to it will be able to go back to that component. Whether that component came to their inbox or it's a component you sent, you can go to your sent items in Outlook, go to that email, and continue to add things to it. So things to it. Whatever it is that I add in, anybody that has this email will see that automatically updated. So I just added this, it's automatically updated. If I go back to my inbox where that message was actually sent, it's going to show me exactly that updated message. So whoever is doing it, whether it was in your inbox, there wasn't a reply, there wasn't a forward. It's just going to the original message that had that component. It's automatically going to be updated. Mind blowing. I love this. So Jacob, were you able to open it?
Unfortunately not. I do
I
get
thought
the
so.
error message that
Yeah.
says, you're not on this person's domain. So
Yes. Yes. So I need to change my permission. So I'm the admin. You would think that I would already have that set up. Sorry, I did not. I thought I did last time I did this session, but anyway, that's okay. We won't worry about that right now.
if
Just so
only you
you
knew
know
any
that
IT people.
I know. Couldn't we call somebody? I'm pretty sure we know a couple. But anyway, so just so you could see, when I went to my sent email, I added things to it. I see it instantly when I go back to my inbox where that message was. So unbelievable how you could do that. By the way, I recommend testing that with your coworkers. Until your company goes live with this, you have things all set up. It's available, worldwide for everybody starting at the end of this year. It's going to be a wonderful tool. Now, this is barely even touching the surface. So let me continue. I'm going to go into Teams. And in Microsoft Teams, which by the way, Zoom is new, but it's actually been released for a while. Just so you know, it's still in this preview, but it's live enough that it's been out for a little while. So there's been a lot of feedback to Microsoft, giving them suggestions and why doesn't it do this and why can't I use it here? So just so you know, it will be changing just like everything else. I kind of say that a lot, especially with programs like ChatGPT, anything Microsoft 365 related, everything is kind of in a revolution right now. We're kind of changing things to make them more modern and work with us. So let me show you how it works in a chat. So if I am in a chat, and I have 10 people, I have 2 people, I have 1 person, it doesn't matter. A loop component can be added to a chat. I'm hoping it's going to be more relevant to other areas of Microsoft Teams here. But as of right now, I have this component that I had added into this chat. So just so you could see that I have that component. So I'm going to go ahead and click send to send that component to my coworker. So this component is now live because I sent it via chat. Now, how did I add it? I basically went down to the bottom like you always do. Watch for the loop icon. That loop icon is down on your menu down below. When you click on loop component, you can add in any of these loop components. Now, by the way, this list, I have the newest version of Microsoft Teams. I haven't updated my Microsoft 365. I only just did Teams right now. There is a new version that I need to download for Outlook and Excel and those. But right now, these are the components that I have access to through chat. So a little bit different than the list that we saw when I was in an email, just to compare, just to show you. If I do a new email, I'm in my body of my message. I go to insert, I do loop components. These are the components that you're going to see. Let me get Teams open up in the background here, just so you could see the difference here. That's the loop components there. These are the loop components here. So we have progress tracker. So we both have bulleted list, checklist, numbered list, paragraph, but Teams also has a progress tracker, the table, but it's got a voting table. You know, both have table, but this one has a voting table. They both have Q&A and they both have task lists. So voting table and progress tracker are the 2 new features that came into, I have them right now in the new Microsoft Teams. So I'll click progress tracker. So progress tracker by default, everything gives you a name up at the top. So you can title whatever the component is. And you always want to do that so you know what it's related to. So progress tracker is us being able to track the progress of what we're working on. So maybe we're working on accounting department, new invoice process, or whatever you are currently working on. You can see that it's got a work area column by default. It's got an owner column. And by the way, there's notifications that come through these components. So I could assign who the owner is going to be. If I have another work area, I can assign another coworker, etc. So just so you know, a lot of these are very interactive. They are connected with people. So your domain, they're automatically going to be connected. Now, of course, if I'm using this with somebody outside the organization, sending them a chat through Microsoft Teams because they're connected with us, I would be able to assign them as well. Otherwise, we have a progress column. So I don't have to be putting in, like I showed you in that table. I can have a progress column that I can say it's in progress. It hasn't been started. It's off track. Whatever the case might be, it automatically tags it. I could say this one's in progress. So it's using color coding. And so it's very interactive that way. I can put in what the end date is, add any blockers for this, and people in your organization with the link can actually edit this. So although I'm creating this in the chat, this is a component that I can actually share with other people. As a matter of fact, at the top of every component that you add in, you can open the component in a page. Although it's going to still reside here in this chat, it can also be opened in a page as well. So kind of spend a minute and kind of look around the component window to see what your choices are. Now, once again, each one of these is going to have some intelligence to it. The intelligence behind this, by the way, is like your Microsoft lists. So if you're a list user, the app called Lists, these components have some aspects of that. just so you're aware. It's very interactive and very intelligent, actually. So we could always go to any of these and do a right click, like I showed you before, where we could be inserting new columns. We can move things around. We could delete things, whatever it is that you need. On the left-hand side of each row, you get the menu for delete. So no matter where the component resides, you'll always get those menu choices. So any components that are added to a chat, and by the way, I didn't send this one yet, so I'm scrolling up, and you can see this particular component was created back in August with this person, and different people can be coming in and adding information back in that component from August or to the new components here. And if I'm adding something, they could be adding something, and we're going to instantly be seeing exactly what every person is doing. There's no delay, really. It's automatically showing up. But I do need to send this. So when I create it, once you're done, you click send so that it posts it. I should say post. We post it in the chat. Now the other person sees it. They could be coming in now and adding or making changes to it. Okay. So as you're kind of following this, you can see components can be added to several different places that we communicate with others. Whoever has the link to it, to that component, can open it. Even if they're not part of this chat, even if they're not part of that email, they can open that component. But once they open it, where does it go? So as I mentioned earlier, the top left of any component, when they click on it, it automatically takes them to the internet and opens that component. Now, what it's actually doing, as you can see at the top left, it shows me the name of it, but on the way left-hand side, we see the loop menu, the loop menu. So I'm going to go to the top left. I'm going to click where it says loop, and you can see that it says preview. This is the main menu of going to loop.microsoft.com. When you first come in, you won't see any components. You won't see, of course, any workspaces, pages, or anything because of the fact that you have to set it all up. You know, it's just like anything. There's nothing there until you create it. So what's going to happen, unless somebody shared something with you, then you would see it if it's already been shared. But basically what you're seeing is these are each of my workspaces. So at the top menu, you can see that I have these tabs, workspaces, recent components and pages, ideas. So basically these are the the workspaces that I've already created. If you wanted to create a new workspace, you would go to the right-hand side, click on the plus sign. You would give the component a name. You can assign an icon to it. We can have different images and different things, but I won't worry too much about all that. But let me go ahead and put in a title so that you could see what happens when you do a brand new workspace. So let's say that I'm going to do a new workspace for the marketing department. So this is a place where we're going to be doing some brainstorming. I'm just going to click create. It automatically takes you into a new page where we can then start adding in content. We can end up with multiple pages on the left-hand side or connect components. So a component can be added. If it's an existing component, it technically could be added directly to this workspace. The workspace is going to be the front end of where we have the collaboration, the brainstorming that we're going to be doing. So that's going to hold all the pages and all the components that we want to group together in this workspace of all the different things we're working on. So let me give you just a couple of examples. So up at the top, if I wanted to add an icon for this page, I could type in something that I'm searching for. Otherwise, you could see there's a lot of different emojis and different things like that going on. So if I wanted to click on one, this can be the image related for this particular page. And let's say that this page is going to be related to social media. I could just click and start typing. But we have templates built in. The templates are down below. This is our template gallery so far. I do know that there's other templates coming. So watch for new ones, but it's got a project brief, it's got team discussion, it's got project planning, and it's got meeting notes. I'm going to click team discussion because that's what we're going to be doing with our social media. When I click that, it actually takes me into the template where it's going to give me different sections to the template already built in, like a normal template would do for you. So what you're seeing is use this template to make team decisions or discussions to have us all be doing this live together. So what you're seeing is I have different sections that were added where I personally could have added these myself to a blank page, but it has background content, constraints that we need to be careful with, or any assumptions. So let's say that I want to add in an assumption. We assume that everyone is connected to the social media platforms. So we could be making a list of what the assumptions are. And if somebody comes up with another assumption while we're brainstorming through our marketing with our social media, they can be adding things in. But there are some components that have automatically been added in. This is the idea list. We can do some pros and some cons, and then people can actually vote. So this is the voting table that I had mentioned that we had in that drop down of the adding in a component. This is the voting table. So we can have people come in and put their idea and then they can vote on the idea. We also have a component that's been added in called next steps. So what's going to be our next steps? Check how others are working with their social media. So we could actually assign this to people that are a part of this. We can put in a due date as to when that's going to be due. We can have a final discussion section. So every page can be based on a template or blank where we can then be adding in different components or text, and we can format the text. So let me show you how that piece of it works. So if I actually, and let me kind of go down, and let's say that I wanted to, and wait a second, sorry. I'm going to update this cover real quick, just so you can see there's a lot of different covers. So that image going across the top. Let me just update that cover. Of course, I could update the icon as well. So if I want it to be a specific icon, I could be updating pretty much anything, just so you know, kind of, you start from the top and kind of work your way down. But let me add something new to this workspace that we're going to all be collaborating on. So I'm going to go to the right. I'm sorry, to the left, to the menu, click on the circle with the plus sign, and I'm going to add in a new page. I want to add in a new page. So from this new page, I'm not going to use a template on this one. Let me just start from scratch. I could add a cover to this page. Of course, I could add an icon, but I'm just going to have this be related to Instagram. Oops. Insta. It's okay. Couldn't spell it there for a second. I could just start typing, but one of the things that you're going to find is we use the slash menu, which is similar to when we do searches and different things in Microsoft Teams. If I click the slash, I get a drop-down menu. This is where I can come in and I can put different components. So if I wanted to add any of these other components, I want to add a divider to separate my information. I want to embed code from someplace else. I can do any of that from this drop-down. Also, as I keep going down this list, this menu, I could add in a header. So it's going to be formatted as a heading 1, heading 2, or heading 3. So of course, heading 1s are your larger font sizes. And then I could add in these different templates where I have my voting table, as you saw, my progress tracker, where we can have our status column and those kind of things. Back at the kind of going towards this drop down, I also can be adding in labels where we can color code things. I can be adding in a person where we can actually be putting in @ mentions to people as well. We can add in images, and then we can be adding in some other apps as well. Just so you can see, we've got a pretty long list of different things that can be added to these pages as we are working on this entire workspace together to pull together. This is where everybody's doing that collaboration. So this is really built based on a lot of components. It makes it easier than us having to manually create a separate task list where we can't type text in. We can't have paragraphs of data. Like we're in Microsoft Lists, we can't do paragraphs of data. We just have our columns and rows of our list. If I'm in OneNote, everybody's like, well, why wouldn't I use OneNote for this? OneNote doesn't have components in it. Yes, we could create a table. We could insert an Excel workbook, but it's not going to give us the interaction that we get with these components. This to me is so different than anything. It's kind of like a collaboration of separate tools all built into one instead. So we can't do some of this in other places, but some of it is available in other places. So these components to me are interactive like the Microsoft lists. And that's where those workflows are going to be coming into play, just so you kind of piece that all together. But let me just add in something. Let's say that I want to add in a heading. So I clicked heading. I could go ahead and put in what this first heading is going to be. And so if this is going to be Instagram, new posts. And then we can be adding in things to go along with this. So what do I want to put in? Do I want to just start typing text, or do I need to insert a component? So first I might describe what this is. First, oops, I should put in describe what this is. So I would put in a little paragraph first. Then I can add in the component itself. So I'm going to press enter here. I'm going to do my slash, and maybe we actually want to add in a progress tracker. So I can insert that progress tracker. So just so you can see, anything can be added. We could be doing the text just like we do in OneNote notebooks that we share, but this is so much more interactive than we've ever had in an application before. Will these components be available in OneNote? I don't know. I have not seen anything on that just yet. Will it be available interactive in a meeting? Has been another question that I get all the time. That I haven't seen yet either, but I would like it to be, because wouldn't that be great as we're doing our meeting notes to be able to have this as an interactive tool? A lot of my meeting notes are being done in OneNote notebooks. So having that as a component that I can insert so that we can actually have action items and different things like that going on, I think that would be a great addition. So we just kind of need to be letting Microsoft know, yes, we're liking this tool, but are we going to be able to use it here? Can we do this with it? What are some other things that are coming? So just like I said earlier, though, keep in mind this is new and they're already making changes to it as we speak. You know, that message that I had right away when I went into that component, I got that message about the new features. So just so you know, new things are coming out. But what if I wanted to share this with somebody else? So I've got this whole workspace. So I can see on this left-hand side, the name of my workspace is marketing department. One workspace member means it's only available for me. If I go to the right-hand side, I can click share. I'm going to choose to share the workspace. I'm going to share the workspace. I can choose who I want to share this with. So I'm going to start typing one of my coworkers. I could put in there, you know, as many people that I want to share this workspace with. I would put in everybody from my marketing department that works on social media that needs to see this, because this is where we're going to be doing our collaborating until we start kind of pulling things together, whatever. This is where we're going to do that collaborating. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just send that invitation. They'll receive the notification via email like we always see. So they'll be able to click on the link that they receive and they'll be able to open this as well. Okay. But back on the left-hand side for a second, every time that I'm adding something in, whether it's a page or this team decision I added in, which was a template, like I said, I can always come back and make changes to any of these, but basically that is a page. I just happened to start with a blank page. But we can go to the drop down and we can break it down based on activities. So we have this drop down menu here for this workspace. I could go into a tree hierarchy of all my information, or I can view by activities. Okay, just so you can see we have different views for that. But anytime that you want to add anything to this, it's really a matter of clicking on your plus sign and you can continue to grow what it is that you need to be able to share with other people. But I'm going to jump back because I got a couple of things to cover here before we're done. The time goes by so fast. At the top left, I'm going to click loop again. Jacob, did you have a question from someone?
Yeah, I've got a question from Jeff here. I got to say, it's too bad that we aren't doing this. We're doing this in Zoom and not in Teams, because maybe we could take a real live look. But the question is, you've seen loop components in Teams meetings where the organizer can add an agenda and anyone can take notes or assign action items. But the question is so when you have that loop component in Teams, do you know if it's possible for someone other than the organizer to add agenda items without the organizer adding the first one, or maybe
Yes,
even
it can
other?
be blank.
Okay.
So they can make the component, have it available, and whoever has the rights to where that component is, yes, they can start that list. The list doesn't have to be started before the component is shared. That was a really
Right.
good question, by the way, because I've come across that because they weren't the ones that were actually going to do the agenda.
Hmm.
So they just added the component and then others came in and started adding to that agenda.
That's good to know.
Okay. So just so you can see, it added this marketing department workspace to my list of my different workspaces, but I can also go to my recent components and recent pages. So if I have a component that I had put somewhere or they had put and shared with me, I have the ability to be able to go back to those components from this drop-down list. And so as you can see, this one was actually done in that department meeting. This was done in this IT support. This one was done in this two-story office building. This was done in a support project. I could go back to any one of these. So if I want to go back to this two-story office building and open that one back up, it took me directly to the page called two-story office building, which, as I can see at the top left, it's got this welcome, it's got this check the basics. It's got all these different template contents that we can actually include if we start with a template. By the way, if I go back to the main menu for my loop.microsoft.com, at the top menu where we have workspaces, recent components, and pages, I can click ideas. And a lot of times this is where people will get started. Create a new page or a component, capture all your ideas in a loop for yourself or share with others. So if I just want to start a new page, I could do so that way as well. But when you are at that main menu with your workspaces, which usually a workspace is built to have multiple pages and or components within the pages, that is where we do all of our brainstorming, kind of we're going to build the plan together and all of that. At the top right, you can have things saved as favorites. We also can change our view to be a list view as opposed to looking at things based on a card view. So just so you get the idea as to kind of how this menu looks as of today. But like I said, lots of new things coming. This was just a general overview just to introduce you to this feature, this new loop where we have components, we have pages, and we have workspaces. Individually, you will, for me, I started out really kind of getting used to using it through chat and email. those are the two that I started with. I've also done it quite a bit now in meetings, but using it through Teams and using it through Outlook have been the most common for people to get started with it. So if you had you want to know what my recommendation to you would be, that is what I would do. Start playing with it with a coworker to kind of, have a go-to place so that you can see if you send an email. Best part is you don't have to keep replying back to that message. You're just adding to that component. Once you've done this, I mean, I think you're gonna love it. I am hooked like you wouldn't believe on this program. I have been using it for so many different things. It has been kind of our go-to, but I do need to go back and turn back on. I just remembered when I turned off my permission because I had to show someone in a class how to do that. But anyway, just so you got an overview of how this application works for you. The handout that will be available with the video, by the way, is going to give you different business cases of how you can use this, really break apart those three components for you, give you suggestions, show you screenshots of how all these are going to work for you, plus being able to share those components. Whether if it's not in a chat, you want to share it with somebody else, you can definitely do that where it will automatically open for them in the app. Okay.
I'd say
Jacob?
there's nothing worse than working with maybe like a big group of people over an email and trying to get everybody's response or everybody's availability. And when they can all just add it in there, it works
Exactly.
out perfectly. We do
To me,
have
it was
one
like,
quick question.
oh my gosh, is this real? I mean, I wished for stuff like this a long time ago. It's
Oh
like, this
yeah.
is ridiculous.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it's really hard to kind of add back to it. I always used to insert a table, a regular Outlook table, and tell people to add to it, or I do the bulleted list and say, I'm going to put my responses in red. You do yours in blue. It's like the
And there
days
goes
of
your
us doing
inbox.
that anymore is like gone. Thank you.
Yeah.
What was the question that you had come through?
Yeah, this one's from Seth, and I was gonna answer this. I was just gonna type out the answer because I thought I knew, but I figured I might want to confer with the expert on this one. So, uh, Seth said we use MS365 for hosting our email, but still use the perpetual version of Office. So can we use Loop in the perpetual environment? I thought that answer would be no.
It is no. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You do have to have the latest and greatest. Sorry.
Yeah, it would make sense. It's more of a collaborative thing. And I think,
Yes.
if you guys are all on a similar domain or in that organization, I think that's where Loop really does its work.
Yeah.
It's magic.
But if you just stop and think about, what are some things that you need to work on or work with other people on? You know, lists are great, don't get me wrong, but having this, that it's using those list tools has been phenomenal for me. It has just been, I mean, it's blown my mind on what it is that once I first got started and I started thinking about all the different ways I could use it, it just kept flowing. It was like, oh my gosh, I could use this for this and this. And, what we were just talking about with the email though, because I work with a lot of different businesses and we need to respond back and forth to different questions. This has saved my life. This has been absolutely wonderful. Okay.
Yeah. And like you said, it's only going to get better as they introduce more things in here. So
Right. And I can see it being included in a lot of other apps, little limited right now, but it's new. It's new. It'll grow. All
well,
right.
Jolyn, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. I want to remind everybody to keep an eye out on their inboxes. We've got October 30th. The future training topic here is preparing for cyber insurance. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for the survey coming to you within the next day or so. And, enjoy the week. Thank you for
Yes.
coming.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, Jacob. Bye-bye.